In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a little bit more complicated logo. Not too complicated, but it will take us a little time to design this. Now, this logo came to us pretty poor quality artwork. You can see that there. It's very blurry. So it's not going to be a good candidate to convert into a vector format from this bitmap. But because of the way we design in EasyStone, we very seldom ever use a vector artwork as a starting point, which is a little bit off the norm of Rhinestone software. But once you see how we approach these things, it's actually a benefit because we don't have to worry about, most of the time we are going to get a bitmap from a customer. Rarely are we going to get vector artwork. And even if we did get vector artwork, it may or may not be in a format um, that would be very conducive to Rhinestone software. So by typically working on the bitmap side as a starting point, it actually saves us a little bit of work. And this is actually a very straightforward, very easy logo to do if you understand the design process. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to grab our crop tool here in CorelDRAW and crop our bitmap down to just about like so. Get rid of all the excess bitmap. Now with that done, the customer wants this to be 12 inches wide, so we'll make our bitmap 12 inches wide. And the customer wants to use all SS10 stones, of course, but actually for this design it's not overly detailed, so it's actually going to be a really nice design even with SS10 stones. Um, and so the first thing we might do is come up to our transparency tool here. Now this is a custom toolbar. So you will not have this in your version of CorelDRAW. So look at our videos, look up custom toolbar. You'll see how to make this, or you can download this toolbar as well from the website. But at any rate, we're going to go into our transparency tool, and we're going to choose here uniform transparency. And I would probably set this at about 90, whatever you want. I typically work about 90%. Just so I can see it, but but when I put stones on top, I'll be able to see it too. So let's right click and lock that object so I can't accidentally move it. And let's begin. So let's start with our feathers. That'll be a good starting point. Nice and simple feathers. 3-point curve tool, most magical tool in all the land. I mean, this tool really is fantastic. Trust me now. So we're going to just come in here, drag little segments, 1, 2, 3. That's why they call it 3-point curve, right? So come here to the end. That's 1. Click and drag your mouse. Let go. That's 2. And then set the curve. That's 3. Okay, don't worry about being real particular. Rhinestones can be very, very forgiving. So just slap some things in here, just like this. Boom, boom, boom. We don't have to be real particular. Just kind of set some things into place there. So you can see we're just, and trust me, I know I make it look easy, and it really is. And you may be frustrated at first, but I have a lot of experience in creating rhinestone designs and working here inside CorelDRAW. So, but use that tool because it really is. I mean, I don't care what other program you might be using. That tool is the most simple tool you will ever find in any rhinestone software or vector drawing software. That 3-point curve tool is just marvelous tool. So just keep going here. And we're just, you can skip around and just draw these lines in. Very, very simple. Just little segments. And, that original artwork is just a guide. So don't get too overexcited if you make a mistake. We can always change this. When you're first starting out with this 3-point curve tool, little segments. Understand how the tool works and how it reacts and how much control it gives you when, depending on the length of the segment you're making. But smaller segments to begin with are better than longer segments. And then once you understand how the tool reacts and what kind of controls you have, then you can go haywire and knock something out pretty quick. So you can see, very, very simple stuff, right? And then we'll just come in here and we'll add a little thing there. And I just kind of cue in on certain areas that, like right here, you see how this little pattern goes? So let's just draw that in. Okay, we don't really know exactly how this is all going to work out, but let's just draw it in, rough it in, okay? Because it's such an easy tool to use, we don't have to get too particular. Again, we're just going to rough it in here. something like that. I don't really care what it looks like. Um, so that is the basis of this little piece of our design. So now it's just a matter of slapping some stones down, right? So let's just select the whole kit and caboodle here and come to the stone tab. Now we've already specified our stone size for our SS10 stones, and we have the spacing between stones already for us. So let's just click on add stones, and boom, all of our stones are added. Now, I don't get too excited about all these overlapping stones and things because we're going to make some major modifications as we go here. So let's just come in here, select the whole thing. Now, these stones are on that path. They're connected to the path. So we're going to delete those paths. So now all these stones are individual things that we can obsess over. And trust me, I do obsess over them. So let's just start with our feather here. What are we going to do here? Well, do we want it to come to a nice sharp point? Do we not? In this case, I actually don't, and I'm going to explain why here momentarily. But for now, let's make it rounded instead of a nice square point. All right, and then up here, what are we going to do here? Tell you what, let's back out. Let's select the whole thing, and let's do a quick search for overlap stones. So check spacing. 7 objects are overlapping. We're going to dispose of those. Now we can come in here and take a look and fine tune and modify and twist and torque. All right, so that takes care of that. That takes care of that. We've got an overlapping situation here. Something's got to give, right? So let's make that give. We have an overlapping here, so just sometimes making small adjustments, we can take care of those things. Not too big a deal. Here we have some overlaps. So what we're going to do here, we're going to make a pretty major modification to these stones. Just pull these back. I want them something like that. Okay. So that takes care of that. And then we have a little spacer, the problem there. That takes care of that. If those stones are too close, just modify them quick. And if they're not close enough, well, we can modify them the other direction too. All right. So now let's go ahead and fill in the gaps a little bit here. So we're going to take a stone, right click. So all I did is left click, drag, and then right click. That makes a duplicate. Understand that? So left click and drag, hit the space bar. Maybe that'll be easier. That too will create a duplicate, but then it still gives us another one. So whatever you're comfortable, left click and drag, right click, see that little plus icon that appeared? That will create a duplicate. Get that down pat because you're going to be using that all the time here in CorelDRAW. So let's go ahead and pull this in. See, we'll modify that. This needs to be a different color though. So we'll just pick that different color, hit the stone tab, rename and fill, and then we can just kind of duplicate. And then we'll hand place a couple. So I want 2 stones wide. Don't worry about those overlaps, okay? Because we'll finesse those into place, and we'll get whatever we want, because we'll force it. All right, so now that we have those stones in place, let's go ahead and just modify these outer stones just a little bit. Give a little bit of extra spacing there. Sometimes something's got to give. All right, so there we go. That is basically all we can do for that little tiny area. Now, this area, this will be fun because there's not a lot of designs. Now, this is netting, okay? Very difficult to replicate in rhinestones, but we can just slap some stuff in here and very easily and make it look decent. So what we're going to do is take one of these crystal stones, and we're going to start here and just hit the space bar. And I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit here. Space bar, space bar. And again, don't worry about these overlaps because we're going to come, all we're doing is just hitting a space bar, slapping some stuff in here. Now we don't want to slap it in there. We do want to have some purpose there. So yeah, we don't want to truly slap it in there, but we'll come back in when these stones are really tight here and we'll just fix those up. But again, the nice randomness of these stone placements, we don't have to be too particular because it's just netting. And netting is random anyhow. So we just need to fill the gap. But I want to use a little bit of spacing there because, again, this is netting. So we want to kind of give that illusion of the netting. So all I'm doing is moving my mouse, hitting the space bar. Every time I want to drop a stone, just hit your space bar. pretty cool that that's built right into CorelDRAW. We don't have to create a tool to drop a single stone. A lot of rhinestone programs actually have a tool for dropping one single stone, but we don't really need that tool here in CorelDRAW. So just go ahead, fill in the gaps here. Zoom in and out with your wheel mouse. All right. So then we just kind of have to play with things a little bit till we get that spacing the way we need to. Look at everything. Yep, that looks good. We do need to nudge that stone over a little bit. All right, so now in between these two, I want a row of crystal. So what we'll do is we'll just pick a point here and we'll start dropping some stones. Now I've done a lot of rhinestone designs, bunches and bunches. So it's pretty easy for me to come in and just move my mouse around and get that spacing pretty uniform. So the more you do, the easier it'll get. So yeah, I could lose sleep worrying about all those overlaps, but I'm not going to, because in the end they won't matter. Sometimes we get to the point here where this last stone will have this huge crater, this huge gap. Well, we just have to, just finesse, finesse, finesse. And you can see very quickly we can make it look right. All right, so now these outer stones here, that's what we need to finesse those. So yes, it is a little bit of shuffling and moving around, but very, very simple to do here in CorelDRAW. So shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Zoom in and out. I'll get dizzy zooming in and out. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to lay in some stones here, and I'll kind of go against the original artwork a little bit, but let me just show you how this is going to work. We're going to draw a 3-point curve, okay, and then we're going to add stones to that, and you can see I have a bit of a gap here. See that? So we want to move that a little bit closer. And just kind of move things around. And we can actually grab our shape edit tool here, select that path, and we can actually modify that path by these nodes and these control handles. Watch. Ooh, see there? The stones follow right along. Very powerful feature, I think, here inside Easy Stone, because it's something I use all the time. All right. So now that we have that row in, that's what I wanted to do there. Let's go ahead and add, and I'm not going to obsess over exactly how this works. You can see it. See how that line looks kind of screwy? That's okay. We're just going to throw a path in here, just kind of willy-nilly. Okay, there's no rhyme or reason to what we're doing here, because we just need a path to drop some stones on. So we'll go back over to here to Cobalt Blue, add stones, and that just slaps some stones in there. And then what we'll do is we'll select those, delete stone paths. So now all these are swinging free. And then we'll just fine tune. So we'll just delete one and then take all these ones, and then we can really, because I tend to obsess more than I should. And so I like to tweak and get this just exactly the way I want it. And this method allows me to do that pretty simply. So you can see we got those stones into place there that we wanted, just like we wanted. Very easy to do. All right, so now we need to fill in the rest of the netting here. So we'll grab a stone, spacebar, and we'll just kind of move the stone into position, and we'll just kind of come through. And because we're doing this netting, we don't really need to do, I want lots of spacing between the stones, and I want it to be totally random. And so obviously this works really well for this particular design because we get lots of spacing and the stones appear totally random. And it's quick because we're just selecting one, moving it, spacebar, 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 spacebar. You're gonna wear out your spacebar. Better make sure you have an extra keyboard or two laying around in case your spacebar goes out of whack. I use that to drop a lot of stones. Okay, and we'll fine tune if we need to fine tune a stone or two or three here or there. Like here, there's a pretty good gap there, so we'll just, nudge some things around. But what we're doing here doesn't require a whole lot of perfection. And sometimes when we're working on top of a bitmap, the artwork will look a little bit different than when we pull it away and look at it separately. So I don't obsess too much until I pull it away, and then I can really fine tune these stones. But see, you got these little cords dangling over here. So just take care of that. Just add those little flailing things there, and we've got a little cord dangling here. We can go against the original artwork. It's okay. I think that looks good. All right, so now we have to look at this. And you know, it's a matter of how much space that we have to fill in and what we can and can't do. So let's grab a stone here, hit the space bar. That'll drop us a stone right in there, and we can fit one right in there. And if we can't fit two side by side, well, then we can't fit two side by side. Now the customer said, well, they only want to use SS10s. So I want two stones side by side, so I'll just modify my feather so it'll fit. It's real simple. So just go ahead and make these duplicates. I'm just dragging with my left mouse key button and then right clicking to make a duplicate. All right, so now we have that taken care of. So now we have all these problems here. So we'll just slide those over, make room for a big fat feather. There we go. And here we're just going to push that in and we'll add a stone there. And I don't know what we're going to do here yet. Might take a little bit of finessing. But, you know, we can do that. Easy enough. And we don't even have to either, you know. So, I mean, it's just, that's a little bit tight right there. So we'll make that change. Tell you what we're going to do. Let's make enough room for another stone right there. Just because I can. Might go against the original artwork a little bit, and you know what? I may not like that. So we'll shift things around. Get that just the way I want it. And if we have a couple of stones that are really super tight, don't sweat that, because your template material will still cut out fine. Even though you got a couple of stones that might be a little tight, as long as you don't have your whole design super tight, you'll be all right. Okay, so there we go. That takes care of that. Now what are we going to do here for this one? Well, for this one, I'll just take a different approach. I'm actually just going to come in here, grab me a swath of stones. You can see I have some selected down here, so I'll hold my shift key in and get rid of those. But this is what I got right there, see? So I'll just go ahead and slap it in there like such. Then let's change the color of those. Then we can tweak. Okay, so I'm definitely going to have two stones there. But I'm just going to focus on this top row for a moment. See, so we just have those stones right in there. All right, so now I got to come back in and I got to add some stones here. But we've got a situation where we're going to have some overlaps, but that's okay. So we'll just fill in these gaps here. And if there's a big gap, I'll just pull these back down. Let's focus. We'll make our changes to the top of the feather on this one. So let's get these stones in place the way we want them. And yeah, we'll leave it there. Then we'll make these changes, whatever we want them to be. If we want them closer, farther apart, whatever. All the way out like this one, we got to make farther apart. Then we'll tweak these outside stones to suit. Luckily, because this is a feather, we can make these little changes and it won't affect the quality of the design. All right, so that takes care of that part of the design. Now, the next thing is well, let's go ahead and make our stick here, because that's going to be super simple. So there's one stone. We're going to drag that all the way over. Select those two, go to the stone tab, shift add stones. We have this whole row of stones that is attached to a path. You see that there? Let's delete the path. Don't need that anymore. And let's grab that whole row of stones there. Come to the stone fill tab and hit the down arrow. That'll give us our stick a little thickness there. And right now we're touching, so let's just pull that back. And then we're going to grab that, and we'll come all the way over here and select this and come to our selections tab. And that will select every stone in between and hit Shift P. And that will just adjust the spacing of all those stones there. All right. So now we have the stick totally complete. And I think it looks really good. If we want to see what the stick looks like all by its lonesome, let's just pull it away, duplicate it. Let's throw a weed box behind it and marvel at our work. I think it looks pretty good. But we're not done because we have our text to go. And in some cases, the text will be fairly easy to do, really. So let's go ahead and grab a couple of stones. We want our text to be 2 stones wide. So let's go to the stone fill tab and hit the up, like this. And right now we're 5 stones. Let's leave it there. Take and we'll move it over. Okay, so there's our L. And then we're going to do our A. Take these 2 stones, bring them right over. Tell you what, I'm going to change my mind midstream here. We're going 6 stones tall. Just like that. So kind of against the grain of the original artwork a little bit, but I think it'll look better if we do that. So let's go ahead and make our L a little bit wider. So there's L. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab these 2 stones and slap an A together. Grab these 2, pull it over. So now we have our angle here. Select those 2 stones at that angle. Come to the stone tab. Shift, add stones. Very powerful feature. Plop those stones right in between there. Love it. And then we'll duplicate that. And then we're going to select those and flip it, mirror it, and then back over here again. All right, so now you can kind of see we have our letter A. We've got all these paths, so let's delete the paths. We do have some overlapping stones here, so let's go ahead to the editing tab and get rid of those. And then we're going to just fine tune. Select those 3, Shift P. Select those 4, Shift P. A little bit tight there, but I'm not going to sweat it. And there is our letter A. Okay, so now for our letter C here, let's do this. We'll pull down a guideline here and here. Take care of our letter C real quick. And this is where we got to let the creative in us out a little bit. We got to just kind of do our own thing to some degree there. So there is our letter C. So we'll switch back over here to cobalt blue. Add stones. And then we'll go back in here and delete our stone paths. And then here we can, we can decide whatever we want to do. I'm just going to hand place them. Just because I've done it so many times. I can do it in my sleep. And it's just easier for me to do it that way. Okay. Very, very simple. Alright, so there is LAC. And now let's tell you what. I always think L is just like R. So let's pull that over. There's our L. And let's go ahead and delete these 2 things here. Let's just pull this over like so. And then let's decide where the R is going to be here, how this is all going to work out. So I'm going to go to the stone fill tab and offset there and there. And I'm going to nudge this, Alt Control down. So I nudged it. And I'm going to go like such. All right, so here for this angle, let's shift add stones. Let's go ahead and add 1 extra stone there. So you can see that actually works pretty good. We'll add an extra stone there. That takes care of that. Let's go back in, grab, because we have our paths here, so let's delete stone paths. Get rid of those. and finish up the R here. So we're going to come over one more, and then we're just going to kind of hand place these stones here. That will make our R pretty good. Let's pull that down. We'll add one more there. I'd like to get 2 in there, if I'm being honest. So, but I don't think we're really going to be able to do that very effectively. So let's just back up. We'll either have that extra stone in there or we won't at the end. Just because of the room that's available, we don't really have room for 2 stones in there. So it is what it is. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and grab our oval shape here. There's that. Come to the stone fill tab. We're going to do 1 island fill. And that will go ahead and place those in there. And then we're going to select those 2, come to the stone tab and add stones. So that takes care of the O and the cross. Now for our S. And we're going to start off our S with 2 stones, like such. And then we're just going to, whatever we want to do. We could draw a path and have these stones follow that path if we wanted to, but I thought it would just be just as easy to just slap them in there. And then same thing like we did with our letter C. I've done it so many times that honestly for me it's just as easy to come in here and slap these in manually. There we go. Pretty simple stuff. And you know, when you're dealing with such a small space, sometimes, you know, you're just limited to what you can do. So I'm actually going to come in here and just see if we can kind of just rework that S a little bit. I think it looks okay. So let's go ahead and, because in the end it won't matter what I think, it'll matter what my customer thinks. So hopefully they like my letter S as much as I do. Alright, so now we can kind of begin to put this word together. Get rid of all the extra spacing if there is any between the letters. Alright, that looks pretty good, I think. So we'll grab our letter L here, pull it over because we do need an E in this. So then we will go to our stone fill tab and we'll offset there, and we'll offset there as well. So Alt Control down, so that will become our letter E, just like that. Alright, so now you can see that our lettering got a little bit bigger, and that is just how it happens sometimes. We have to kind of let the stones guide us. So we're going to try and shore up our spacing between letters as much as we can. I think that looks pretty good, although there is a little bit extra space between the R and the O here we can get rid of. And that's about as tight as we're going to get it. And now you can see it's actually pretty close to being in line there, so I can live with that. Let's go back over here to the stone tab and delete any stone paths that exist. And now we do have some of the work already done for us for the top here. For example, all of these letters, the L, the A, the C, those are all duplicates, so we'll just make a copy up there. And then the S and the E are also duplicates, so we'll make a copy up there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to group all these letters together. So just select each letter, group it together, just using my keyboard shortcut. There we go. And then we can kind of just start placing these letters and wherever we need them to be. So there is SE, and we don't have an N yet. And there's our C and our A. So that takes care of Seneca. And then, tell you what, let's move this. Oh, we'll move this over here somewhere. So that takes care of Seneca, although we do need to make an N. And then we need Valley. So there is our V, sort of. And then we have our A. And then we have our L and our L. And then we have our E. And we'll have to make a Y. All right, so now we can kind of come in here and we can fine tune all of our lettering and whatnot. So let's get this. Space and width is going to really be a factor here. So we want as minimal spacing between these letters as we possibly can get. So there is the valley. And you know what? We might use this V as a Y. Little conversion. Not a big deal. And then we'll make an N out of E. All right, so let's go ahead and do that first. Let's go ahead and get our N made. So we're going to ungroup this E, delete those, duplicate these, just eyeball it. It's good enough. Now for our N here, what we're going to do, because again, the width is at a premium, we're just going to do one line of stones. We're going to select those, come to the editing tab, hit that respace feature, and that'll kind of shore those up a little bit better. And this N is already pretty wide, so, and we just don't have much space, so we just have to kind of live with that fact that we can only have one row of stones for our N there, but it won't matter. It's good enough. So that takes care of Seneca, and then we have Valavev. So what we need to do is just modify this. So let's ungroup our V here. And let's just delete a few extra stones here that we don't need. Let's take this group, pull it over, and decide how we're going to do this. Actually, I think that'll actually work out. Let's just do that right there. Get rid of this. Take these 4 stones, Shift P, and that we're just going to call that as our letter Y. And if you compare that to the original artwork, you can see it very similar. Okay, so now over here in the V, we can make this a little bit nicer, I think. So let's ungroup our A here, our upside down A, and let's delete that stone and bring over our V, something like that. So we will delete that, Shift P those stones, and then down here, we're just going to spread these out enough. And we'll spread these out enough. We will have a little bit of gap there for our V. And I don't know that there's really anything we can do about that. We just have to kind of live with it. Which, I can live with it. It's really not that big a deal for me. We are just limited in how that works. So there is Valley. Seneca Valley. Alright, so we'll go ahead and space in between words, make it as small as we can, but not too small. Alright, and then we can take the whole Seneca Valley and position it where we need to. So you can see we had to make a pretty major change, but it's what the customer requested. So I don't know that we had a lot of choice. That's what they wanted. That's what they get. So we will go ahead, and that Y right here is really going to be the indicator of where this needs to be sitting. And I think that still looks good. You know, I would be happy with it. And that's where these stones will just kind of guide you. So let's change the wording of the lacrosse part, the coloring. And there we go. That is our finished design. We do need to select these 2 objects. So this is what we have to fire off to the customer, this finished design right here. So let's go ahead and add in a weed box. That takes care of that. Always run through one last time, select the whole thing, run through it one last time, editing, check spacing for any overlapping stones. Oh, it did find 7 of them, so good thing we did that. Takes care of all the overlaps, and then we will select it one more time, come over to the miscellaneous stone use report. Tell you what, let's do that again. Stone use report. And then we'll choose add dimensions. There we go. So 12 inches overall height. It's what the customer wanted. Double stones for the lettering, which the customer wanted. 3¼ inches tall. So you can see on these more challenging logos, it did take us a little bit more time because we're moving and fussing and what have you, but keep in mind that really this logo took us about 30 minutes, and we didn't have to convert it to vector first. We just dove right in, and this was able to be put together fairly quickly. I don't know that really for this complexity of a logo that it could be done in any less time, no matter what software we're using. And from my perspective, in terms of the amount of knowledge we needed here in CorelDRAW, is pretty minimal. We didn't use a whole lot of tools. We used a lot more of a quote-unquote manual process. But in this process, the way we did it, I think it's a nice uniform look. It looks good. I bet the customer will be tickled pink. And so I hope you learned a little something on this one and enjoyed watching this one. Thanks for watching.